Have you ever wondered, how do people actually achieve financial freedom? Why are there some who seem to do almost nothing, yet their money keeps growing, quietly, steadily, even while they sleep? It's not luck. It's not because they knew the market in advance. It's because they understand something most people never realize. Money is meant to serve you, not the other way around. J.L. Collins calls them Pathfinders, ordinary people who chose an extraordinary path to take control of their finances and build real freedom, the kind that can't be bought, only created. They don't chase hot stocks. They don't jump into the latest crypto coin. They don't gamble on luck. They play a different game, the game of time, discipline, and freedom. If you've ever felt trapped in the endless loop of work, spend, debt, if you want your money to start working for you, and if you're curious how ordinary people can reach financial independence, then stay with me, because today we're stepping into the world of Pathfinders, extraordinary stories of people like you on the quest for financial independence and how to join them. This book summary will show you how to turn every dollar you earn into true, lasting freedom. Part 1. Understanding that financial freedom isn't about retiring. It's about having a choice. In American culture, early retirement has become a trendy dream. Online, people show off photos of laptops on the beach, long vacations, and call it by an alluring name, financial freedom. But according to J.L. Collins, that's a dangerous misunderstanding. Financial freedom doesn't mean you stop working. It means you have the power to choose, to work or not to work, to choose what you do, where you live, and how you live. Collins puts it simply: when you have financial freedom, work becomes a choice, not an obligation. In Pathfinders, Collins tells the story of a woman named Tess, who once worked 60 hours a week at a major advertising firm. She was exhausted, burned out, and believed that more money would fix everything. But even after saving a decent amount, she still felt trapped, because as her income grew, her spending grew right along with it. It wasn't until she read The Simple Path to Wealth and applied its principle, save more, spend less, invest simply, that Tess finally understood. Freedom doesn't come from how much money you make, but from how much you truly need to live your own life. She cut her expenses, invested steadily in index funds, and 7 years later, she didn't retire. She simply walked away from her old job to start teaching art to children, something she'd always loved. That's what financial freedom really means in Collins' eyes. It's not about escaping society or living off the grid. It's about taking back control of your time, your energy, and your values. As Collins says, you don't need to win the lottery. You just need to stop living as if you've already lost. The Pathfinders in his book aren't investment geniuses. They're ordinary people, engineers, teachers, nurses, even janitors. But they all share one thing in common. They've seen the game for what it is, and they've refused to let money control their lives. That's the core philosophy of Collins. You don't need to be ultra-rich to be free. You just need to be less dependent. And that's the first step on the journey to making your money work for you. Understanding that financial freedom isn't a destination, but a way of choosing how to live every single day. Part 2. Building your money machine with index funds. In the world of investing, people are often taught one thing: to get rich, you must beat the market. You have to pick the right stocks, buy low, sell high, and spot trends faster than everyone else. But J.L. Collins completely rejects that logic. He says, you don't need to beat the market, You just need to let the market work for you. That line sounds almost too simple, suspiciously simple. Yet Collins has proven it true through his career and through hundreds of real-life stories shared in Pathfinders. Imagine owning a money machine that runs quietly 24/7. It doesn't need you to monitor prices, it doesn't react to the news, and it doesn't require genius to operate. That machine is called the index fund. Instead of trying to guess which stocks will rise, an index fund buys the entire market, meaning you own hundreds, even thousands of companies in a single investment. You're not betting on who will win. You're betting on the long-term growth of the American economy. Collins writes, "The stock market may fall in the short term, but over the long term, it always rises because people never stop creating and adding value." He tells the story of Sam, a young engineer who once believed investing was a game for Wall Street insiders. He spent nights studying charts, reading financial news, and trying to stay one step ahead. The result? A small profit one year and double the losses the next. Then one day he heard Collins say during a talk show, "Every time you buy or sell a stock, you're betting that you're smarter than the rest of the market." I wish that were true. Sam decided to move his entire portfolio into the S&P 500 index fund. Simple, low cost, and completely hands-off. 10 years later, not only had he outperformed his old self, but he also had far more time to focus on what truly mattered: living. According to Collins, the power of index funds comes from three magical forces. Low cost, you don't pay high management fees to experts making endless trades. Automatic diversification, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. And compound growth. Your returns generate more returns, creating what Einstein once called the eighth wonder of the world. As Collins puts it, it's not the market that makes you rich, it's the time you stay in the market. And that's what makes index funds the secret weapon for anyone seeking true financial independence. When you invest consistently and stay calm through short-term volatility, the market slowly turns into your personal money machine, quiet, steady, and far more powerful than any complex strategy. Many of the Pathfinders in Collins' book aren't financial experts. They simply follow a deceptively simple formula. Save 50% of their income, invest in index funds like VTSX or S&P 500, and let time do the rest. When the market drops, they don't panic. When it rises, they don't get greedy. Because they understand, investing isn't a game of emotion, it's a test of faith and patience. At the end of this chapter, Collins writes a line that wakes many people up. Most of us don't fail because we invest the wrong way. We fail because we didn't invest the right way long enough. And that is the true nature of the money machine he describes. It doesn't run on magic. It runs on discipline, time, and simplicity. If Wall Street is a glittering casino full of flashing lights, then the index fund is the quiet machine in the corner, and the one who has the patience to stay walks away holding the key to financial freedom.
Part 3. Keep costs low, because saving is instant profit. In the world of investing, everyone talks about returns, growth stocks, high-yield strategies, and how to make more money. But J.L. Collins starts with something so ordinary that most people overlook it. He calls it the silent thief of investing, the one that can quietly steal hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars from you without you noticing. Imagine two friends who each invest $100,000 in a stock fund for 30 years. Investor A chooses a professional fund with a 1% management fee. Investor B picks a simple index fund with a 0.05% fee. If the market grows an average of 7% per year, Investor B, just by paying 1% less in fees, will end up with almost $250,000 more at the end of the journey, a number that shocks most people when they see it. Collins writes, "You don't have to be smarter than everyone else to get rich. You just have to be a little less stupid by not overpaying for things you don't need." Costs don't just live in your investments. They hide in your lifestyle too. A new car, the latest iPhone every year, or all those tiny purchases that don't seem like much. Those are the invisible fees we quietly charge against our own future. In Pathfinders, Collins tells the story of Mark and Sarah, a middle-class couple living in Oregon. They never made more than $80,000 a year, yet they reached financial independence at age 42. Their secret? No fancy investment tricks. They simply saved 50% of their income, lived well below their means, and automatically invested the rest into an S&P 500 index fund. Sarah said it best, "We don't feel like we're sacrificing. We just refuse to buy things that would make us work 20 extra years to pay for them." Collins emphasizes, every dollar you don't spend today is a dollar of freedom tomorrow. No investment guarantees better returns than cutting costs. Saving is instant profit because it doesn't depend on the market, interest rates, or who's sitting in the White House. It's the one interest rate you control 100%. As Collins often jokes in his talks, you can lose money in the stock market, but you'll never lose by spending less than you earn. Many Pathfinders didn't achieve freedom because they were rich. They achieved it because they learned to need less. They discovered that freedom doesn't come from buying more, but from shedding the things that keep you chained to earning more forever. Low costs in investing and in life are the foundation of every sustainable financial strategy. They let you invest more, sleep better, and escape the trap of earn more to spend more. Because, as Collins says, when you learn to live with less, you become both richer and invincible. If part 2 was about building your money machine, then part 3 is about keeping the money from leaking out of it. A lesson so simple, yet it's the foundation that's helped thousands of Americans and Pathfinders move from financial pressure to true freedom, not because they earned more, but because they learned to keep more.
Part 4. Stay disciplined and avoid emotional investing. In investing, intelligence may help you start, but discipline is what gets you to the finish line. As J.L. Collins once said, the market will test you, not through its volatility, but through your emotions. And that's a lesson almost every Pathfinder has had to learn, sometimes at a painful price. Imagine you've been investing regularly in an S&P 500 index fund. Everything looks fine until suddenly the market drops 30%. The news screams disaster, crisis, meltdown. You stare at the red numbers on your screen and ask yourself, should I pull out before I lose even more? That moment, right there, is the dividing line between winners and losers. In Pathfinders, Collins tells the story of Ben, an engineer from Colorado. For 10 years, he followed Collins' simple path perfectly. Buy index funds, hold long-term, and don't interfere. Then came 2020. When COVID-19 crashed the market, panic took over. Ben pulled all his money out. A few months later, when the market roared back, he didn't just lose tens of thousands in gains, he lost something far greater: his confidence. Ben later said, "I didn't lose because of the market. I lost because I broke my own plan." Collins calls that the cost of emotion, the invisible tax that makes the average investor earn several percent less per year than the market itself. Not because they invest wrong, but because they react wrong. When the market rises, they fear missing out. When it falls, they fear losing everything. Two emotions, FOMO and panic, opposite sides of the same coin. Collins reminds us, investing isn't a test of intelligence. It's a test of emotional control. That's why he offers 3 simple rules. Automate your investing. Set up automatic monthly transfers into your index funds. When decisions are automatic, emotions can't interfere. Don't check your portfolio too often. The more you look, the more likely you'll react to short-term noise. Collins once said, if you're checking your portfolio every day, you're not an investor, you're a gambler. Trust time, not predictions. The short term is chaos, but the long term rewards the patient. In history, there has never been a 15-year period when the S&P 500 delivered a negative return. Many of the Pathfinders weren't financial geniuses. They were simply relentlessly consistent.
They kept investing through the 2008 crash, through COVID-19, through rising interest rates and economic uncertainty. They didn't try to predict. They just kept doing the right thing long enough for time to do its work. And that's what transformed them from ordinary people into financially free individuals. Collins compares emotional investing to pulling up a plant every day to check if the roots have grown. The more you interfere, the more you damage the process. Compound growth needs time and silence, not constant action. Financial freedom doesn't come from perfect timing. It comes from staying the course when times are worst. When you learn to stay calm in the storm, you realize the market was never your enemy. Your emotions were. As Collins once said in an interview, if you can control your emotions, you've already won 90% of the investing game before you even start.
Part 5. Diversify your income, but simplify your strategy. On the journey to financial freedom, diversification often sounds like the ultimate armor. Everyone says, don't put all your eggs in one basket. But J.L. Collins adds a powerful twist that most people overlook. Have a few baskets and know exactly what's in them. After hearing about diversification, many people start chasing everything at once. Stocks, crypto, real estate, startups, even NFTs. They call it multiple income streams, but in reality, it's strategic chaos. As Collins wrote in Pathfinders, if your portfolio requires an Excel spreadsheet to understand it, you've probably gone too far. He's not against having multiple sources of income, but he emphasizes this key distinction. Diversifying income is not the same as diversifying investments. You can have a salary from your job, passive income from dividends, rental income, or even a small side business. That's income diversification. But your investments should remain simple, transparent, and manageable. You don't need to own 50 different stocks or 10 types of funds. A few broad index funds, some bonds, and maybe a small portion in real estate or REITs. That's enough. In Pathfinders, Collins tells the story of Sarah, an elementary school teacher from Oregon. Her income was modest, but she built 3 simple income streams. Teaching salary, her stable primary source of income. Automatic investments in Vanguard index funds, her growth engine. And a personal finance blog, her creative and flexible side income. 3 streams, 3 rhythms, working together like a well-balanced symphony. One sustaining her present, one building her future, and one nurturing her passion. She didn't need to chase crypto peaks or time the real estate market. She just needed consistency and discipline. And after 15 years, by age 46, she reached financial independence. Collins calls this philosophy simple but wide. Wide enough to stay safe, simple enough to stay in control. Don't try to have every possible income stream. Choose a few that you understand, enjoy, and can maintain even when you're tired or unmotivated. He also warns about a common trap: over-investing out of fear of missing out. The financial world is full of shiny invitations, new tokens, AI stocks, green startups, digital gold. Each one promises huge profits or a piece of the future. But Collins reminds us, diversification isn't about owning everything you see. It's about making sure that no matter what happens, you survive. And sometimes, survival is the biggest victory. Many Pathfinders say that a simple strategy helped them sleep better. They didn't need to check gold prices, Bitcoin charts, or NASDAQ updates every morning. They just needed to know their system was running, money being invested, expenses under control, and compound interest quietly doing its work. Financial freedom isn't about having dozens of income streams. It's about knowing which ones truly serve your freedom. You don't need to be an expert in everything, just consistent with your own simple strategy. You can't control the market, but you can control how you earn, spend, and invest. And once you do,
you'll realize that freedom isn't a number, it's control. Part 6. Understanding the power of compound interest and time. Albert Einstein once said, "Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it." J.L. Collins couldn't agree more. In fact, he built his entire investing philosophy around two of an investor's most loyal friends, compound interest and time. In Pathfinders, you'll find dozens of real stories of ordinary Americans who weren't financial geniuses or high earners, but who understood one simple truth. You can't control the market, but you can control how long you stay in it. Take Mark, a mechanical engineer from Minnesota. He started investing in the S&P 500 index fund at age 25, putting in just $300 a month. Nothing spectacular. He didn't chase hot stocks. He didn't trade on headlines. He just invested consistently year after year. 30 years later, at 55, Mark's portfolio grew to over $1.1 million. Nearly $700,000 of that came from compound interest, not from the money he put in, but from the money his money created. Mark didn't beat the market. He simply outlasted it. As Collins wrote, "The market doesn't reward the smartest investor. It rewards the most patient one." He calls time the great amplifier of wealth. The longer you let it run, the more powerful it becomes. But if you keep turning it on and off, buying, selling, worrying, regretting, then even the best investments can't perform their magic. Collins compares investing to planting a tree. You can't plant it today and dig it up every week to check if the roots have grown. You have to let it sit and grow, because true strength comes from time spent untouched. Another story in Pathfinders is about Lisa, an accountant. She started investing late, at 38. She used to say, "I wish I had started earlier." But Collins told her, "The best time to invest was 20 years ago. The second best time is now." Lisa began investing $500 a month. 20 years later, she had over $400,000, not from luck or timing, but from discipline and time. As Collins reminds readers, money doesn't make you rich. Time and the right behavior do. Most people don't fail because they choose the wrong fund. They fail because they lose patience. They panic when the market falls, and they get greedy when it rises, while compound interest only works when you stay long enough. Here's a simple example. If you invest $10,000 at an average annual return of 7%, after 10 years, $19,000. After 20 years, $38,000. After 30 years, $76,000. After 40 years, $145,000. See the pattern? Compound interest doesn't impress you in the first 5 or 10 years, but it explodes after 30. And the only ingredient you need to unlock this miracle is time. He calls it slow fire, a slow but steady flame that quietly burns away financial anxiety. There's no get-rich-quick, only time, discipline, and faith in your system. He writes, "Let your money work. Don't force it to sprint." In today's world where everyone wants to double their net worth in 6 months, Collins' message might sound outdated, but that's exactly what makes it timeless. Because the truth is, those who build lasting wealth and true freedom aren't the ones chasing the next big thing every week. They're the ones patiently letting the old opportunities bloom. Plant early, nurture consistently, and let time become your most loyal partner. When you reach the final pages of Pathfinders, you realize something profound. The financial freedom that J.L. Collins talks about isn't about having enough money to stop working. It's about reaching a point where money no longer controls how you live. It's the moment you can choose the work you love, take a month off to travel with your kids, or say no to things that no longer make you happy because you've built a solid foundation beneath your life. Collins reminds us that the path to freedom isn't a race, it's a journey. Every step you take, every dollar you save, and every smart decision you make brings you closer to peace of mind. And perhaps the most important lesson Pathfinders leaves behind is this: you don't need to be rich to be free. You just need to understand money and make it serve your purpose. If you want to explore more of these simple yet powerful investing strategies and read the real-life stories of ordinary people who've achieved financial freedom, I'll leave a link to the book below. You can check it out or even gift it to someone you love as a gentle reminder that anyone can become a Pathfinder, someone who carves their own path toward a freer, more intentional life.